Hi, friends and yogis. Jenny Wise here from WiseMind Soul Warrior and Yoga Psychology School. And I have my beautiful friend, my dear friend, and also soul sister, Melissa Mong, on with us. She is also now a transformation mentor for us as well. So I'm super excited to have her on as a graduate and also as a transformation mentor. So let's talk a little bit about how you and I connected and how we know each other and how far back we go. And then we'll talk about the training.
Well, thank you,
And
Jen.
how we reconnected too, because we reconnected in
Oh,
2020.
I think that is probably the most interesting part out of everything. But
Hmm.
thank you very much for having me on today. I greatly appreciate it. And so Jenny and I met each other in college, not long ago, but long enough. And we were both looking for some money. So we were part of the Miss America pageant system.
Hmm.
And you've got to pay for your education. You figure out any way that you can. And that was one way that really opened the door for both of us. So we kind of met there. I think that's when we connected and gelled.
Yes.
Um, and then time passes. And you often wonder about people and where they've landed and what
Hmm.
they're doing. And there was something online with Wise Mind Yoga and Jenny right, I think it was right the January that COVID hit.
Yes.
So it was before we had all that time.
Yes. It was before the quarantine. Yes.
And there was a course, and I was kind of in this flux space of my life where I was thinking, what can I do from a career that, to me, I left a couple years prior to that, uh, to improve and help myself internally. And I signed up for Jenny's course, and it just kind of snowballed from there. So
Hmm.
I'm a student that didn't go bam, 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 it's all done. Mine has been progression over what, two years, two and a half
Hmm.
years. I mean, it's hard to tell. I think COVID, we all go a little blurry, but it's been a progression over those years. And I was able to work through the process of things that I was able to uncover.
Hmm.
That makes sense.
It does make sense.
Because there are patterns I think that we all fall into, and sometimes
Hmm.
we wonder why we're falling into these patterns, but it's through the techniques and assistance and helping, someone helping you develop to uncover those that you go, oh, yeah, why didn't I figure that out? Because you, on your own, I think it's a lot more difficult. So Jenny's program was able to peel back the onion. But the most beautiful thing at the same time is that I have a young daughter, and at that age, she was needing some assistance and what Jenny calls as tools in your tool belt. Those tools in your tool belt, you're able to share with your children. You're able to share with loved ones. You're able to share with friends. And those
Hmm.
tools that I was learning at my age, I was able to give my daughter at an early age, which means
Hmm.
she's way ahead of the game. That she's 30 some years ahead of the game than what I was.
Hmm.
So that's kind of our story and how we reconnected. And since then, it's just been studying the program and unfolding more of myself and knowing that there are a lot more people out there than just what's close to me and my tight knit that could truly benefit from the program that Jenny offers. It's amazing. It really is. It's dirty work sometimes. You've got to dig down deep. It's emotional, and I had some really dark nights, but I came out on the other side, which is really good. But I was still learning.
Oh yeah. I mean, healing is a lifelong journey, right? So there is a tremendous amount of healing and transformation that happens during the program that, you know, happened for me in my own programs, right? But there are still, right, every single day, right? There's work that we're going to end up doing, and we'll end up evolving, hopefully, and growing and healing and transforming for the rest of our life, right? So to me, you can kind of think of it as a jump start, the program
Mhm.
itself. There's a lot of healing and transformation. And we do go deep because we do mind, body, soul. We do heart work, we do body somatic work, we do rewiring the mind through meditation. So from a healing perspective, it is holistic across all the areas. And that's why it's so powerful, because it is going across all the different areas. And we're using traditional neuroscience, we're using spiritual soul work, we're using kind of yoga psychology techniques. Um, and what you were talking about is like the shadow work and the soul work is what we do around the family of origin, and then looking at the samskara patterns and the patterns that we have that are not serving us anymore. And then once we identify those, then we can rewire the brain and do the soul work and the heart work and the somatic work to release all those so that we can start to rerun a new pattern, right? A new habit, a new way of thinking. Um, and I wanted to share a minute too, like you and I have talked about this before, looking back at, our 20-some-year-old self, um, like if I could talk to my 20-year-old self. So it's kind of similar to, you sharing some of the things you talked about with sharing with your daughter. I know for myself and for you and many of the women that have joined the program that they were doing the healing work not only for themselves, but just as much for their own family. And whether that was for a partner, for a husband, for their children, their grandchildren, right? Because the healing that we do right now affects future generations. It's not just our own mind, body, soul healing. It is future generations, and we're healing past generations actually as well by doing this work. So that's the amazing part, because we've got generational trauma, we've got childhood trauma, and we've got relationship trauma. Okay, so there's like three types of trauma, right? And we're healing it all at the same time. Okay, we've got like our parents and our grandparents and our great grandparents, trauma, and then we've got our own childhood stuff, and then we go into a relationship and we get relationship trauma and how that shows up, our biggest mirror and our biggest triggering opportunities and learning opportunities. But what
I,
I'm Go ahead.
when you're talking about the words that you were saying made me think that how often, and this is just from my personal perspective, and also what I see is that especially for women, and men do the same too, but I think so more women, we kind of put ourselves aside to be able to nurture other things besides ourselves. And part of really digging down deep is allowing yourself truly to nurture what you need to
Mm-hmm.
be able to work yourself through.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we nurture as a mother, we nurture as a partner, we nurture as a daughter, we nurture as a sibling, whatever it may be, we nurture everyone else, but we forget to nurture ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So, therefore, from my personal perspective and my journey, is that I just kept on burying it deeper and deeper and deeper.
Mm-hmm.
And then once a month, it would come up because everything does. It's your cleansing time.
Right.
But then we bury it deeper and deeper and deeper. And I did that for years
Mm-hmm.
until I started working with that intergenerational type of healing,
Right.
going back to an understanding, oh, this is why I do this.
Yep.
Oh, this is why I do this. But now that I recognize it, how can I work with it to heal it?
Right.
That's where I feel that you really came in with your programs to be able to hold my hand,
Mm-hmm.
whether it was a one on one or I was just working online with what was already pre recorded, which
Mm-hmm.
is really nice for me because I was able to take my time to really process and understand it and
Right.
then play it and go back.
Mm-hmm.
So that to me was the most helpful part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it's interesting too. I want to go back to two quick examples, and then I want to talk about kind of more specifics around some of the healing and transformation that you've seen. Um, But going back to the example with your daughter and things I've done with other moms, one of the examples, the exercises that comes up off the top of my head, which is really powerful for women, but also for tweens and teens and women in their 20s, is to ask yourself, do you treat yourself like your own best friend? Remember that exercise?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's one of the most popular ones that is a starting point for moms to be working with their daughters. And I remember this was 10 years ago, with cognitive behavioral change. The first time I ever heard this philosophy or this idea around treating yourself like your own best friend, because for years and years and years, this is, me kind of connecting this back to my 20-some-year-old and what it was like when we met at Miss Pennsylvania and Miss America stuff, is that, I was a perfectionist and I did not love myself. And I had no idea. I mean, I thought I had self-confidence, not in an ego,
Yeah.
never an ego way. There was never any ego for me, like, but it was more like I thought I loved myself. I thought I accepted myself. But meanwhile, it was just like me trying to get validation. Yes, it was for money. I mean, it was for scholarship, right? So there was a component of that. And somebody did approach me and come to me, right, and say, would you like to be part of this? Like, it wasn't, you know what I mean? Like, somebody came to me in a yoga class, actually, Melissa. I don't know if you remember. But I used to teach step aerobics,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Step aerobics. That was one of my coping mechanisms all through college, was exercise, which is one of the reasons why I have the experience I do to teach yoga, because I used to teach group fitness and step aerobics way in the day. So one of the pageant folks came to my class and said, have you ever thought about, doing pageants? And I was like, no, I never crossed my mind. And she's like, well, you can get scholarship money and there's a talent portion. And I was like, well, I can sing. So I could sing. But the one thing that it did do is it did give me self-confidence, and that it did help me with my communication skills and my ability to get up in
Oh
front of
yeah.
people.
Oh
So in
yeah.
that regard, that was very beneficial. And obviously the relationships and the friendships that I made there, the community for the women that I did connect with was a great experience. But I just want to take that like snapshot for a minute. I wish I had a picture. I'm gonna have to dig out an old picture, by the way, and post it of us, Melissa. I have a picture of us like standing on the stage dancing. I have one somewhere. My mom has kept it.
Oh.
Up in a twist, like, and we're doing our dance, and like just thinking about like, if you could tell your 20-some-year-old, right, what you know now. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, if I could
Oh
just go to that girl and say,
yeah.
here's the things I took me into my 40s to figure out, my life would have been so different. And I've told this story so many times, and I've mentored women in their 20s and 30s and told them this exact same thing. Like this, what I'm telling you right now, I'm trying to save you 20 years. Like these things I had to learn the hard way to figure out, what is going on with all these different patterns that I have.
But
So,
the beautiful thing is that even the latter part of your years of life, you can still heal
mhm,
what has happened in the past,
absolutely.
even if it's yesterday or from this morning.
Absolutely.
So to me, the most important thing is how can I share to pass
Mhm.
on that mentorship that was given to me as a gift? Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. And it
So
doesn't matter if you're 40, 50, 60, you can be in your 70s and do this work, right? So there's no time limit so I just want to put that out there too.
yeah, there definitely is not a time limit because I found that later, but sharing what you've been through and noticing the process of how the science comes together with an intuitiveness and the sacredness of what you teach can be how that can be utilized and shared with even my daughter Maya, who was not even a teenager yet at that time. is
Mhm.
just is mind blowing and amazing.
Mhm.